Hey everyone, Michael Short here. Welcome to another episode as we sit down and chat with various members of the Alberta Fish and Game Association executive. And my next guest, certainly no stranger to anyone that has been around the AFGA for a number of years. Andy Van Busse is a past president of the organization. He has resurfaced to take on the very critical role of finance. Andy, first of all, thanks so much for taking some time and chatting with us today.
You bet. Thank you, Michael.
Let's start, I guess, with maybe the big elephant in the room, and a number of organizations have suffered from the fact that COVID has really created some serious issues, eliminating opportunities to do fundraising, to have the big dinners and all that type of thing. Maybe put it in perspective for us. What kind of an impact did that have over the last 18 months or so with the AFGA?
Absolutely huge, absolutely significant, not just on a provincial level, but at the local club levels. The major fundraisers for most clubs are two things: raffles, casinos, and the big one for them are their wildlife suppers. And of course, they've not been able to have that. As a result of that, we get a lot of our funding from our clubs, particularly for the Wildlife Trust Fund. Those donations, although they haven't dried up, they were significantly reduced. And as a consequence of that, impacted the provincial organization significantly, to the point that we did feel that we needed to restructure, and which we're going through those throes right now.
And there was also a bit of a boost to or an increase in membership dues. Has that helped?
Yes, absolutely. That increase was required. There was a concern that we would have a drop off. We are very pleased that, in fact, we have maintained and even slightly increased our number of members. And as a result of that, we've become financially stable for this year, especially. A lot of the grants and other donations we normally get weren't available. But because our clubs came to the party and did not only approve the increase, they've also sent the money in as a result of that increase, and we certainly appreciate that. It was needed.
So, I mean, obviously, the objective, I think, for you and the entire executive is to achieve some form of long-term stability. In your mind, what does that look like, and how do you get there, Andy?
I think it's twofold. One of the things that obviously is required, we need to maintain our membership. That means we need to communicate with our members and to our members. Not only the things we're doing, but also where our finances happen to be at any particular point. And one of the tools that we're looking at in the finance committee, looking at developing, is what we call dashboards, which is basically important metrics for the association that will simplify financial statements for those who are not familiar with them, and which will point out important things for them to look for, and they will understand by looking at these dashboards that we're either on target, over target, or we really got to do something about it. But rather than getting into detailed financial statements, which for many people are a bit of a mystery, this will simplify things.
That's such an important point, because, let's face it, a volunteer board brings together people of many different backgrounds, strengths, and experiences. And as you point out, not everyone, I know I certainly couldn't look at a financial statement and tell you which way is up. So how important from an organizational structure, knowing what projects could perhaps go ahead, or where you stand at the end of the year, and that you're on track with the type of spending and revenues coming in, is it for the board members to understand all of that?
Oh, it's really important, and it's not at the end of the year, because the end of the year you're talking about history. What is more important is during the year, so that decisions can be made, no or no-go decisions possibly, or changes that might be required, that have to be made during the year, because if you're going to react at the end of the year, it's too late. And so that we feel that it's really, really important that this is a tool that our board can use, and then information for our clubs that they also can understand what we're doing.
So I guess this question maybe falls under the horse before the cart. Will finance in some way, to some degree, dictate what the AFGA kind of looks like in the future? Or is it, we want to become this and we got to go find the money to become that? How do you see that split, Andy?
That's a good question. It would be both, I think, because without a plan on what to do, you don't know what funds are needed. We certainly know some of the core funding we're required to the basic operation, administration, the club services, those type of things. We know what we need. But as far as future plans, most of our money outside of administration is spent on our wildlife trust properties, and that portfolio, we've got, I think it's somewhere around 50,000 acres in Alberta, which we manage, some of it in conjunction with the Alberta Conservation Association or Ducks Unlimited, and some with Wildlife Habitat Canada. So that's been a very, very important focus, that conservation side, our Operation Grassland Community, which is fully funded through grants, and it's done very well as far as the funding is concerned. So we've been able to expand that in the last year, which is positive. We want to be able to concentrate on some of that conservation work, which is not just for anglers and hunters, and not just the consumptive user. It's also the person who wants to go berry picking or hiking. Some of these properties are in beautiful areas. They give access to some lakes or some streams. So it's important for us to be able to not only look at the hunter and angler, but the other people who are in the outdoors. And in many cases, those are not consumptive users.
And do you feel that that might be an untapped resource in terms of generating some revenue? And if you can entice those non-consumptive users to come on board, that might be able to provide some additional funds for you.
Oh, absolutely. Certainly on a Wildlife Trust Fund, and as members to the administrative side, and that allows us to do things that we haven't been able to do in the past or not be able to do well. We'd certainly like to, as example, hold more camps for outdoor people. And most of us who hunt and fish, we also hike in mountains, and we also boat on rivers, and we may go to holiday places and do some of those same things. Last year, I spent almost a week in southern Mexico hiking in the mountains. Most people didn't know the jungle had mountains. It's a beautiful place. So that is the type of thing that we certainly will encourage, and having the funds to be able to encourage that becomes very important. Yes.
Andy, we'll leave it there, but thank you so much for your time today to talk about a critical component to, I think, what will ultimately become the success of the Alberta Fish and Game Association, and that is the stable financial picture.
Thank you very much, Michael, and I certainly appreciate the input that we could give.
All right. We will continue our series of interviews next week. Till then, I'm Michael Short. Thanks for watching.